Hi, this is Ned Siegfried from Siegfried and Jensen. As proud sponsors of BeliefCast, we hope you are inspired by Todd's weekly podcasts, which contain so many courageous stories of recovery and personal growth. Remember, it's not what happened in the past that matters, it's what happens in the future. We invite you all to work hard and be optimistic about your future. Enjoy today's podcast.
Welcome back, everybody. This is Todd Sylvester with the Todd Inspires BeliefCast. Thank you, as always, for tuning in and for believing in me and believing in the message that we share and supporting the guests that I bring on. I want to give a shout out to my sponsors, Siegfried and Jensen, Wasatch Recovery, and Thread Wallets. And the beautiful music that you're hearing at the beginning and the ending of this episode is by my good friend Paul Cardall. So I'm grateful for him for allowing us to use his beautiful music. And again, thanks for being here today. You're in for a treat, as always. I mean, the guests that I bring on are fantastic, and today's going to be no different. Today, we're joined by Brady Murray. Brady, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me, Todd. Great to be here.
Yeah, so good to have you. We were just talking. We ran into each other at Good Things Utah. We were both going to be on TV on the same day, and it had been a few years. I was fortunate enough to be a speaker at one of your events, and that's how we initially met.
Yep.
And to cross paths again was a God moment for me, and I'm just grateful that we were here, sitting here now doing this podcast.
Yeah, it was for me as well. So I'm also very thankful to be here.
Yeah. So you guys, Brady's got his hands in a lot of things. He loves to help other people, especially the underdog. He is the founder of Rod's Heroes. He's always trying to make a difference, like I said, especially for someone who's maybe doesn't have, the best cards dealt to him in life. And I can't wait for you to hear what he's doing. I want to start off with a quote that you shared with me, actually. And the quote goes like this: "The person you become is determined by the books you read and the people you surround yourself with." So what does that mean, and why does that mean so much to you?
Yeah, I was actually taught that by a mentor of mine that has been very influential to me over my life. But I just believe wholeheartedly that anybody that's going to write a book, they're going to put their heart and soul into that, and they're going to give you everything that they've got inside from the heart. And so that's a gift. That's a genuine nugget that comes from them. So books are amazing, amazing gifts. And then obviously I believe strongly that the people that we surround ourselves with, those are the people that we are going to become. My parents always told me, show me your friends and I'll show you your future. And I believe that wholeheartedly. Yeah,
and I've heard it said, it's pretty popular, people have heard this, where you hang around, 4 millionaires, you'll be the fifth. Mm-hmm. You hang around 4 unhealthy people, you'll be the 5th unhealthy person, right? So it does matter who we rub shoulders with, right?
It does.
And it really makes a difference. And so, you've done a lot of good. You're currently, like we said, the founder of Rod's Heroes, which is a nonprofit dedicated to helping orphaned children who have Down syndrome and other special needs finding loving homes. Now that's a big task. Huge task. It's really starting to thrive right now. But before we get there, I want to figure out, why do you do this? So maybe we start with, tell us a little bit about where you grew up and about your family, and then what kind of led to what you're doing today.
Yeah, great question. I believe wholeheartedly in the concept of serving the pain that you know best. And I believe that life entrusts us with experiences. Some of those experiences we choose, and some of them we don't. And they just simply happen to us. But through those experiences, we have different things that will transpire that allow us to be able to become who we're supposed to be. And so when I was young, I was actually, so you'd introduced me as Brady Murray. I was actually born Brady Gomez. And my mom and dad married at a young age, and they had me. And shortly thereafter, after I was born, they got divorced. And that was a very tough situation for my mom and for my dad, for that matter. And when I was 4, my mom remarried a man by the name of Brady Murray. And he later adopted me when I was 13 years old. And so all throughout my life, I fast forward to the end of the story, I have a wonderful relationship with my adoptive father, and actually a wonderful relationship with my birth father as well, really? Danny Gomez. And so I feel very strongly that I'm one of the lucky ones that truly has 2 dads, and very thankful for that. But
that is,
yeah, growing up, going through, the divorce at a very young age. And then unfortunately, my parents actually got divorced when I was 16 as well. So my adoptive father and my mom got divorced when I was 16. And so I saw a lot of different things growing up and experienced a lot of things that some amazing, great things that I wouldn't trade for anything, and other things that were not ideal, that were not ideal situations. And so I just wholeheartedly, deep in my soul, know how much a child loves their mom and dad and how much their mom and dad mean to them. And I have experienced that from a very young age into my teenage years, how dependent I was on that, and I still am to this day. And so again, under that concept of serving the pain that you know best, I can't fathom a child that doesn't have a mom and dad, that doesn't have a family, that's in an orphanage somewhere in this world, whether that's in the United States, here in Utah, or overseas. I just can't fathom that. And that's really my life's work, is I want to be able to help those kids that don't have a family be able to get a family. And in particular, those kids that have special needs like Down syndrome. They are innocent. They are pure.
Wow.
And again, the thought of an innocent, pure child with Down syndrome not having a family, I don't like the thoughts of that.
Well, I think it's good to tell our listeners too, you have 11 children.
Soon
correct?
to be 11.
Soon to be 11.
Yep.
And you have, out of the 11, soon to be 11, are 7 of them adopted?
There will be 7.
There will be 7 because you're adopting someone.
Yeah, we have 7 children as of today, as of this recording.
Okay.
Maybe when this is published, we'll have the 11th.
Probably,
right?
yeah.
But we're in the process of adopting a sibling group of 4 children from Colombia, all siblings.
Wow.
And so that will give us 11, which is even kind of weird in Utah, actually. So,
yeah, right. It's like, 6, 7, 8, you can kind of I get it.
You get up to 11.
But when you get past 10.
But 2 of our kids have Down syndrome.
Right.
1 biological son, 1 adopted, and 7 of the 11 will have been adopted.
Yeah, and I've met one of them.
That's
Coop,
right. You met Coop.
Coop is like, he's an angel, man. And I know you know this, but when I met him, Coop made me feel like I was his best friend,
Yep.
right? And we met on the set at Good Things Utah, so that was really neat to be able to do that. But again, this is a testament to what you're saying, is that you're putting your money where your mouth is, so to speak. You're practicing what you preach. Mm-hmm. Let's go back a little bit, if that's okay, Brady. When you were younger, did you know that you were adopted early on? Did you know about it, or was it kind of held from you? Or
that was a unique thing. And again, back to that concept of serving the pain that you know best. When I was younger, that was really not something that was openly discussed. Oftentimes, even before my time, I'd say kids would go their whole life and not even know they were adopted. Right. And so when I went through it, I knew the details of everything, but it definitely wasn't something that we discussed as a family. Okay. It wasn't an open discussion as a family. And in fact, I remember feeling conflict and a little bit of just, it was conflict if we ever talked about my other dad or, my other family. That was not something that we openly discussed. And that wasn't natural. That wasn't a part of what I felt like was right, because at the end of the day, it takes a village to raise a child. And I'm thankful for everybody that had contributed in my life. And so that has helped us a lot in our adoptions now, where we go out of our way to make sure that our, the parents of the children that we have adopted, we're teammates. We're teammates. Yeah. And you take examples, I'll give you 2 examples.
Please, yeah.
Coop is 11. Coop has Down syndrome. He was abandoned on a street corner of a city of 14 million people in mainland China when he was guesstimated to be 6 months old. Wow. And so he literally was left on a street corner. And the authorities came, picked him up, took him to an orphanage. That's where he stayed until we adopted him when he was 4 years old. I've obviously never met Coop's mom, but I love her. I'm thankful for her. And we're working on behalf of this little guy. And my heart goes out to her because she doesn't know where her son is or what he's doing right now. Yeah. And I don't know the circumstances that she faced that brought her to bring that child to that situation. I don't know those demons or those challenges that she faced, but I don't judge her one bit. And I believe, just like any mother, is just doing the very best that they can. And so, you know, whether I get to meet her in this life or the next, I can't wait to thank her and to tell her all about her son and the great things that he's doing. And so then you have another circumstance with the other kids that we've adopted. We were able to foster 2 little girls. A very unique situation. Andrea and I felt in our hearts that we should do foster care. This would have been in 2018, 17. And that was not logical. That was way outside my comfort zone. I did not want to do that. Andrea has a special way of encouraging me without commanding, right?
Sure.
And my heart softened and we went for it. And our very first placement, I remember I was out of town with my son. We were on a fishing trip. We were up in Alaska. And Andrea called and she said, "Hey, DCFS just called. They have 2 little girls, ages 2 and 1. They need a home." And so they said that they would only be here for a couple of weeks max, maybe even just a couple of days. And what do you think? And I said, "Well, I don't know. What do you think?" And she said, "Too late. They're already here." So she told them, "Yes, please bring them by." And she said, "You don't need to worry about it. You're going to be gone for a week of the 2 weeks that they're here anyway. So we're all set." I said, "I trust you, honey. It's all good." And we found out that these 2 little girls were traveling from California back to Colorado. They're from Colorado with their mom. And as they were coming through Utah, there was a car accident on I-15 by Provo. And the police came and they found drugs in the car. They found that mom was high and that these little girls needed to be taken away. Mom went to jail. The little girls came to our house. And we fostered them. Like I said, we were planning on 2 weeks. 2 weeks turned into 2 months. 2 months turned into 2 years. And throughout that entire time, Andrea and I both made it an incredibly important point that we wanted to have a great relationship with their mom. And we did. We did everything in our power to give as much contact as she wanted. Like, we're teammates raising this girl and these little girls. And we were just trying to get these little girls back to their mom and get their mom to a place where she could take them back. And as life is, like, it's hard, right? And like my heart goes out for their mom, but it came to 2 years in. It was on Christmas Day. She asked if we would consider adopting her little girls. Wow. And I'll never forget that experience because she, as you can imagine, was very emotional. She's in her 20s. She's been dealt a really hard hand at life since she was the little girl's age, right? As often is the pattern. And she asked us, she was very emotional, and Andrea and I looked at each other and looked at her and said, "Of course we'll do this for you." And she was so thankful. And then this just shows like where her heart was. It was only after that she said, "Would it be okay if I continue to be part of my little girl's life?" And we said, "Of course you can." Wow. But she was willing to walk away if it meant giving those little girls a better life. And so that is an important thing for us, is we are teammates. We are raising these girls together with their mom, and we incorporate her into anything and everything that we possibly can. And you know, I think that stems back to just my experience as a child, maybe not having that teammate feel.
Right. Wow, that's so beautiful, man. My heart is just swelling up. Thank you for sharing that. And I can tell, I mean, you're getting emotional as you talk about this, like how much this means to you. And I think it's pretty rare, from what I understand, is the, you know, allowing them to be a part, you know, allowing the mom to be a part of their lives and stuff. But yet how beautiful that is at the same time, because then everybody wins.
That's right.
Right? Instead of someone being on the outside going, you know what, I feel horrible. I can't even talk. You know, I mean, there's so many. I know there's different factors.
A lot of layers.
A lot of layers. But that you guys are willing to do that is pretty incredible.
At the end of the day, it's all about that kid. And I get, I get it. Like I get when I was a kid and, my stepdad, my adoptive father and my biological father and them having, that's my son. No, that's like, I get that. But at the end of the day, what was the right thing for this little guy? Like, what's the right thing and the best thing for that little guy? And when parents can see beyond that and see beyond some of those challenges that they may have relationship-wise with the other person and put the child first, it becomes a lot easier at that time.
Wow. I love what you said. It's at the end of the day, it's about the kid.
Mm-hmm.
If parents again, we're all doing the best that we can with what we know. And I love that you said that a little earlier.
That's right.
About Coop's mom.
Absolutely.
Like, we don't know the whole story. And I once heard this, Brady, that if we could walk in the shoes of someone else from the time they were born to the very moment today, there's no way we could possibly hate them.
That's right.
It's impossible, because then we would go, oh, I fully understand why they might be acting in a negative way over here, because look what happened when they, went through this, you know
That's
what I
right.
mean? And I think you obviously understand that because of what you've been through.
That's right.
Right?
Serve the pain you know best.
I love that. Serve the pain. And I'm going to add to this, and my listeners probably get sick of me saying this statement, but I believe it with all my heart. Life happens for us.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, think about this. You wouldn't be doing any of this had you not been through what you went through as a kid.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
And so you're right. Now you're going to go serve that because that's what you know.
That's right.
It's kind of like with me with drug addiction and things like that. I get it. So that's what I do. I'm trying to help people in that realm and do my best in that area. And so it happened for me.
Like I say, life entrusts us with experiences, some of which we choose, a lot of which we don't choose.
Yeah.
And it's what we do with those experiences that ultimately is going to make the best difference, the biggest difference. You're a perfect example of paying it forward, serving the pain that you know best, taking life's experiences that was entrusted to you, maybe not by choice and maybe some by choice, and serving the pain that you know best to help others navigate through it.
Yeah.
That's the idea behind it.
Wow. Beautifully said. Thank you. Well, let's talk about Rod's Heroes and explain that to our listeners and our followers and our viewers now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're you're the second person in the new studio, right?
There we go.
This is so cool. But yeah, why don't you explain to all of us what that is, why you put that together, and then what's your goals with all of it?
Yep. So I was newly married to my beautiful wife of 21 years now. We were expecting our first child, and we had a beautiful daughter, Brindley, who's 17. And then shortly thereafter, we were expecting our first son. And I am a dad's dad, and I love baseball and outdoors and hunting and hiking and fishing, everything that, you do with your boys. And I've since learned you can do just as good or even better with your little girls too.
Right.
But
yeah.
I was so excited for Nash, our son, to be born. And it was a hot July summer. The delivery came. Andrea did an amazing job. I was just so fired up. I'm taking pictures, videos, doing everything that a dad would do. And before I knew it, there he was. And I counted 10 fingers, 10 toes. He was perfect. He looked amazing. And I just had all these visions for what I would do with my son. Yeah. It was a few minutes after Nash was born, I noticed that the doctor and the nurses were very quiet. In fact, they were whispering back and forth. Even it seemed like something was up.
Yeah,
something
you could feel
wrong.
something was up. Yeah.
And about 10 minutes after he was born, the doctor came over, put his arm around me, and said the words that changed my life forever. And he said, "Brady, we believe your son has Down syndrome." And that was the first I had heard of that.
Right.
I was not ready for that. I was very emotional. I became very fearful. I just had a lot of thoughts going through my mind.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And just like, what does this mean for our family? And like, I'll be very transparent. Like, a lot of these thoughts were selfish thoughts. Like, what does this mean to our family? What does this mean to Andrea and I's dream of, are we able to retire someday, or will we have a dependent child? Like, all these thoughts are just amazing, like coming through your mind, and it's just a dark, dark place. And then I got really scared because I knew what the doctor had told me, and I knew that my wife, who had just gone through labor, she didn't know about her son.
Oh, wow.
And I had to go tell her. And so I just said a silent prayer in my heart and just really tried to gather myself and be strong, And I walked over to the bed and I leaned down and knelt down next to her bed and became emotional again. And I just said, honey, the doctor just told me that they think our son has Down syndrome. And I will never forget this moment. She looked at me and she smiled and she said, great. Can I hold my son? And I was not as mature as Andrea, and I was not at the place where Andrea was. I'm still not there, but I knew it was going to be okay. And so, over the next days and weeks and months, we spent time with our son, and I realized very quickly, this is not a bad thing. This is a good thing. This is a big, big blessing. There was a spirit, there was a feeling that existed with that boy that I just knew this was a very special, special thing, that in essence, life had entrusted us with this sweet little boy. Yeah. And I wanted to be a great steward of that. And so we fast forward over the years, we leaned in wholeheartedly, all things Down syndrome, went to every Down syndrome event, read every Down syndrome book. We're the biggest Down syndrome family and fan in the world. Right. And it was through that involvement that we learned about what happens to children in many countries when they're born with a disability like Down syndrome. We learned that it's common practice. Take, for example, the example of Coop. When a child's born with Down syndrome, they're typically abandoned. They go to an institute or an orphanage, and that's where they stay. But we also learned that there's actually a lot of families that are ready and willing to adopt these kids. They just simply don't have the financial means to do so. Yeah. So we saw these pictures of these kids that were in dire circumstances, that were the same age as our son. He was 4 at the time, but did not look like our son. They were skin and bones. They were malnutrition. Like they were in a bad, bad place. And we also saw these families that wanted to adopt these kids. And the gap, the issue, the bridge or the gap was the cost. And so international adoption costs on average about $40,000 to pull off. Right. And these families just didn't have that. And so we thought, hey, let's try and bridge that gap. So it was Christmas that year. It was right during Christmas. We said, family and friends, we don't want a Christmas present. There's a little boy. We'd learned about a little boy in Lithuania named Eli that we wanted to advocate for. He's 4 years old, had never been inquired about adopting. In fact, up to that point, there had never been an adoption transpire of a child with Down syndrome in the country of Lithuania in its history. Really? So we're trying to advocate for this young man. We witnessed a miracle. In a couple of weeks, we raised $20,000, half of an adoption cost. Wow. And within 2 weeks later, we had a family in Indiana that committed to adopt Eli. Eli became the first child in Lithuania to be adopted with Down syndrome. And that was over 10 years ago. He's crushing it. You should see him now. Like, he's just awesome. Like, I've met him and he's an amazing, amazing young man. But that was actually what started the concept of creating a foundation to help families be able to adopt kids like Eli and like Coop. Wow, that is amazing. And to think that was their first one ever. That was. You would think that, there would have been hundreds and thousands, you would hope. Yeah. But first one ever. Numero uno. So that obviously was like, okay, we could do more with this. Yep. We can, if we can do it for one, maybe we can do it for more. And if I'm not mistaken, I think you've placed 100. Yeah, we're just children. Over 100 now. We're just shy of 100 kids with Down syndrome. And well over 100 now with all of our kids that have with Down syndrome or special needs. Oh, gotcha. Mm-hmm. Wow. Yeah. Well, so, when we met at Good Things Utah, you were talking about these kids that are running miles for, I can't remember exactly what that's for. Talk about what are people doing to get involved, and then talk about how baseball fits into all this. Yeah. So something I've learned is when you allow yourself to get caught up in a cause bigger than yourself, you witness miracles, and we've just truly seen some miracles transpire. Love that. So a lot of times individuals will ask, what does RODS stand for? RODS. That's kind of unique. Yeah. And it actually stands for Racing for Orphans with Down Syndrome, and that's where RODS came into place. The way that we actually advocated for kids in the beginning was myself and I had other friends would go and race Ironman triathlons and raise funding and awareness through doing Ironmans. And so that was the idea behind it. That's where RODS came from. Okay. So fast forward now, we actually have thousands of kids many kids, many families, thousands literally, that are running for kids. So kids with families running for kids without families. And how it works is we have programs all throughout the state, expanding throughout the country next year, to where kids will go and run throughout the summer and be able to run as far as they can each and every day for 30 minutes, and then also raise funding to help these kids to be able to be adopted. So that's our Rod's Heroes program.
Really cool.
Mm-hmm.
That's amazing. And then, baseball has been a big part. Coop actually is like the star. He's been going out to these Major League Baseball games and throwing the first pitch.
So this is
right?
crazy. It is another miracle.
Yeah.
Coop's 11 now, and believe it or not, he's a really good little athlete and a very confident, life of the party type of kid.
Oh, I could tell when I met him.
Comfortable with everybody.
Totally.
So through our TikTok page, we actually had a player from the Cubs reach out last fall. Him and his wife reach out and say, "We love what you guys are doing. We want to help. Do you have any interest in coming to spring training?" We're like, absolutely, let's do it.
Yeah.
And so we are planning on going down to Arizona, go to a Cubs spring training, be able to meet these guys. It's Justin and Libby Steele. Believe it or not, Justin is the leading win for all MLB right now, has the most wins in all MLB. So I think there's some good karma that's coming his way for the good man that he is.
Yeah.
But, we go down there, and it was on a whim, like last minute. We thought, Coop's actually a pretty good little baseball player. I wonder if there's a chance for him to throw out the first pitch at spring training. And so we asked Justin. He said, let's do it. And Coop went out, and we just didn't know how that was going to go, but he crushed it. He is a showman. And the Cubs saw that, and they said, you've got to come to Wrigley Field this summer and have Coop throw out the first pitch. We said, for sure. We went out to Wrigley on May 29th on Memorial Day. He threw out the first pitch and just wowed the crowd. They loved it. 2 weeks later, he got invited to go to Fenway and throw out the first pitch at the Red Sox. And we're like, okay, we're on to something. Yes. This kid is good at what he's doing, but it's helping other kids like him be able to get adopted.
Yeah.
And so it was then that we officially created the campaign for Cooper to throw out the first pitch in all 30 MLB stadiums, with the purpose to be able to help 30 kids like him that have Down syndrome or other special needs get adopted. Wow. And so we've just launched that campaign. We were blessed just a couple of days ago to go to Atlanta, throw out the first pitch at a Braves game. The catcher was my childhood hero, Del Murphy, who played for the Braves for all those years.
My goodness.
He caught Coop on that pitch, and then we're going out to New York in a couple more weeks for a Mets game. He's throwing out the first pitch there.
And Coop wears a cape, right?
He does.
Yeah,
awesome. He wears a cape. Yeah, you totally should check him out on he's got a great Instagram and TikTok following. It's Team Coop 21. You can see all about it on there.
Yeah, I follow him now since I met with you, and he like you said, he's the life of the party.
He is.
But I love what this is doing, though. It's creating awareness, and it's getting help for these kids that need the help, right?
That's right.
And what a better way to do this, right?
Yep, that's
and
right.
as much as you've always loved baseball, right?
Yep, I'm a big baseball guy.
Did that just start when you were younger? You just always fell in love with it?
Super cool story. So I shared Del Murphy was who caught Coop at the Braves game, and that was very symbolic and very special for me. When I was 5 years old, we lived in Kemmer, Wyoming in a trailer court. And I remember one day in the summer, a bunch of older kids from the neighborhood said, Brady, come on and play baseball with us. And again, I'm 5. I'd never picked up a bat or a ball, didn't know anything about the game. And we went over to this empty lot where they'd just pulled a trailer out. And they said, all right, you get to be Del Murphy. And I'm like, who's Del Murphy?
Yeah, who's that?
And they said, he's the best big leaguer out there. He's the best in the whole world. And I'm like, all right, I like it. I'll be Del Murphy. And so right then is what started just this childhood hero and this love for baseball and this love for Del Murphy. So fast forward, that was 1983, all through the 80s, going into the 90s, I followed Del Murphy and his career. I became a huge Atlanta Braves fan and live, eat, drink baseball. In fact, I would say when my parents got divorced when I was 16, baseball was how I coped. I lived, ate, drank baseball. That was my out. And so I just have a deep respect and admiration for the game. And so, when Coop got the invite to go throw out the first pitch to the Braves, I just thought, How cool would that be if Del Murphy was the catcher? So I asked the Braves, I said, hey guys, do you think this would be possible? And they're like, yeah, no, sorry. Like, sorry kid, type of a thing.
Right, yeah.
And I thought, hey, like, we're just thankful to be there. And so this was just Saturday. We were there, and like growing up watching all these players, and it was alumni weekend. So a lot of the players from the 80s and 90s were there, and they were recognizing them, and we were right there on the field with them. And I'm just it was a spiritual moment for me. Like, as much as I don't I just am very thankful for the game and thankful for the Braves that I got to watch all growing up. That was my out in so many ways. Wow. And so the time came for Coop to be able to throw out the first pitch. I was nervous, as I always am. And Coop's just calm as ever. Yeah, he's just another day at the ballpark, right, for him. And out walks Del Murphy from the dugout. And I'm like, there's my childhood hero.
Did you not know it until that point?
I didn't know. You're
kidding.
And I saw he had a mitt. And I looked to the person with the Braves, and I said, is he catching Coop? And she just smiled, and she said, yep. And I immediately just became emotional, and Coop ran out on the field, and there he is, Del Murphy behind the plate, catching my son that was abandoned on a street corner in a really big city out there, doing this, paying it forward, serving the pain that he knows best to help other kids. And Coop goes out, and when he goes out, he likes to go out on the mound, and he waves. Like I say, he's a showman.
Yeah.
And then I usually go out with him, and then I'll have him come up to halfway, maybe even a little more than halfway, because he's 11. He's got to throw a strike, right? And so the Braves didn't allow me to go out, so Coop just went on his own, and he's on the mound, and he just came right in front of the mound, just barely. And it was a long throw, and I was yelling at him. I'm like, Coop, go closer, buddy, go closer. And he didn't hear me, and so I see him start winding up. I'm like, oh boy, where's this going?
Where's this ball going?
And that kid threw a perfect strike. I'm talking perfect strike. I think all of us were like, did that just happen? Yeah. But it truly was just an icing on the cake. And Dell came over and was so kind, and I got to visit with him for a few minutes. He signed Cooper's ball that he threw out. And
what a gift.
Talk about miracles, right? Talk about little tender mercies.
Tender mercies.
That was a special time for sure.
Holy cow. Thanks for sharing that. That is amazing. Well, and I'm of the believer too, when we're doing good things happen.
That's right.
They just do. And, I work with a lot of clients, who are struggling, with all kinds of stuff. And what I've found, what would eliminate most of their troubles is if they just start focusing on doing the next right thing.
Yeah.
And I get it. That can seem overwhelming to someone who hasn't been able to do that, if you will. But just starting to do the right thing, just a little at a time.
Yep.
You start feeling better. You start feeling better about yourself. And then all of a sudden, it's almost as if the world softens up towards you.
Yep.
Right?
That's right.
I don't know. I just was thinking of that as you were sharing that.
I have a story that I can share about
please,
that.
Please,
that goes right along those lines. I love, like I said, I was doing some Ironmans, and I love endurance events. I love doing hard things.
That was going to be my next question, by the way.
Get out of your comfort zone type of stuff. And last year, I had the opportunity to do a Navy SEAL Crucible event. And so in essence, it's a group of Navy SEALs that put on these events that allow for civilians to sign up and essentially go through Hell Week, a simulation of Hell Week that they do. And the Crucible that I signed up for was a 52-hour Crucible, and you start early Friday morning, and you don't stop until Sunday afternoon. You don't sleep, you don't stop. Like, you get to eat, so that's a good thing.
It's a good thing.
But you're, in the Pacific Ocean, you're doing the log PT, you're doing a Navy SEAL Crucible. You're experiencing Hell Week.
Wow.
And they told us at the very beginning, they said, if you are doing this for yourself, you will not make it. The only way you will survive this is if you are doing this for your teammates. And they said, there will come a time when you are out there that you are going to be in the darkest place you have ever been in your life. that you are going to feel horrible. You will know that you can't go any further, yet we will be in your face and like as firm as we've ever been, telling you have to go further or we're kicking you out. And they said the only way you will get through those moments is if you remember to look to your left and look to your right and look at your teammates and start to focus on them. Stop focusing on yourself, start focusing on them and see what happens. And I remember like mentally logging that and thinking, yeah, that's great. But like at the end of the day, like I know I've got to be mentally tough to get through this. Well, sure enough, we got to, I think it actually was on Sunday. It was on Sunday morning. We were 40 or so hours into it. Hadn't slept for a couple of days and we were in a dark place. And I thought they'd maybe go a touch easier on that last day. You know, there was only 7 of us left and like we were close group and we'd proven ourselves. And I thought, hey, like give us a break. But no, the last day was the hardest. And it got to a point where we were doing push-ups, like just old-fashioned push-ups in the mud. They're spraying hoses on us. They're throwing ice on us. They're yelling at us. There's smoke bombs they're throwing in there, just telling us like how worthless we are, how horrible we look. Like just that's just part of the thing, right?
Yeah, I've seen those,
And I remember doing so many push-ups that I got to a place where I couldn't do another one and my face was just in the mud. And I was thinking, I literally can't do any more. And I remembered what they said. And so I looked to my left and I saw my teammate, Liam, whose face was in the mud too. And I said, Liam, you got this, brother. Like, I know you can do this. You got this. You got this. And he looks over at me and he starts pushing up and he's doing this. And then I look to my right and I see my other teammate there. And I'm like, Schultz, you got this, brother. Like, you got this. And he looks at me and he's like, you got this, brother. He starts pushing. And all of a sudden, before I knew it, I was doing push-ups too, because I was looking at them. I was looking to my left. I was looking to my right. And those brothers were helping me. But if I would have just kept looking in the mud and saying, I can't do any more, they were right. I couldn't.
Yeah.
But by looking to my teammates, I knew I could do more. And we got through it. We got through it.
That is amazing. Thank you for sharing that. I'm getting emotional because, one, just who you are. You're amazing. Just that you would do something like that. The only way I can relate is I've done a few Spartans, which isn't on that level, but it's hardest.
Intense.
For me, it's the hardest thing I've ever done.
Yeah.
And I remember, so I've done it 3 times. This third year, the first 2 years I was with my son and son-in-law and a bunch of their friends. The second year I was with my son and son-in-law. This third year they weren't doing it and I was by myself. Now, by myself in the sense that I didn't know anybody.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, that was probably one of the most challenging part about doing this year is I didn't have that support. But I remember being on the mountain and I get choked up. And I don't want to make this about me, but it just reminded me I'm up there and I'm thinking someone's going to have to get me off this mountain. Because I'm thinking I'm not going to be able to make it. Yeah. And sure enough, someone runs by, hey, you got this. Yep. That's why I got emotional when you said it. You can do this. Just that little.
It's amazing, isn't it?
And I literally was like, oh, they just said something. And I swear on my life, as sure as we're sitting here today, I felt a surge of energy.
Yep.
And so I couldn't agree more. And it was like, okay, I'm going to just, even if I have to just take one step further, yep. I can do one more push-up, whatever that looks like. And so, wow, that is intense, man. Thank you for sharing that.
Look to your left, look to your right.
Wow. There's I want to share one more thing, Brady, if it's okay. And I would love to hear your thoughts on this. I had a client of mine who shared this in a group setting, and I put it to my memory because I did not want to forget it. And he was quoting someone else, but it was his version of it. And here's what he said. He said, I tried to find myself I could not see. I tried to find my God eluded me. I tried to find my brother. I found all 3. And I was like, wow, there it is. That's what it's about.
Yeah.
And I would imagine, if it's okay for me to say, you've had plenty of God moments when you're out there trying to find these Down syndrome kids who have nothing, 0. And here you come in with what you're doing with this foundation and just with your big heart, you and your wife. I mean, I would imagine you see the face of God, you find yourself, you find the meaning of life, and the list goes on through all of that process because you're going out to find them. Is that fair?
100%. I'd love to capture that quote that you had shared. That's a very meaningful quote. And as you were sharing it, just my heart goes to those kids that I've seen. We've been fortunate to travel to different locations in the world and meet children in orphanages. I've gone in firsthand and seen those kids, and in particular those kids with special needs, and like my heart just goes towards them. And I see what happens when somebody gives those kids a shot. I see a kid that is crib ridden, that doesn't have any shot at life, all of a sudden flourish, and the light in their eyes grow, and I see them become who they are divinely appointed to become. And this is the best part. I see the families that looked outside themselves and took a huge risk and got way uncomfortable to invite this kid with special needs into their family. I see them in the process becoming who they're supposed to become as well. People always say, Coop hit the jackpot. Man, Coop's just, he's so lucky that he got adopted, and you guys are a great family, and there's no question Coop is in a great place. But the person and the people that are getting the biggest blessing are us. And not just us, but the community. Not just the community, but the entire area, his school, everybody that he comes in contact with, they're the ones that are getting the biggest blessing. And here's the thing that's unique about this thing with adoption. This is a generational impacting decision. Andrea and I adopting Coop in 2016, yes, it impacts our kids right now, but it's going to impact our unborn grandkids. That Uncle Coop is going to have influence on kids that haven't even been born yet. And it's very possible that kids that don't even meet Coop are still going to be impacted by Uncle Coop, even when he's long gone. And that's just the unique thing, the tender mercy that adoption is. And so those are the thoughts that I had as you shared that.
Thank you. And I can attest to it. I mean, I was around Coop for about an hour when we met at Good Things Utah, and he had an impact on my life. And he sat right next to me in the green room, and he was showing me stuff. He was coloring. He was talking to me. He was just, I was just like, man, this kid, like, again, the feeling, and I can see why you say what you say. We're all especially you guys, but everyone he comes in contact, we're the ones that are blessed.
That's right.
Because, again, you have given him a chance to be who he was born to actually be.
That's right.
Right?
All those kids need is a shot.
So all the more reason why this foundation is so important. Right? Making a difference and an impact, and all these doors are starting to open up. And again, you're going out to throw another ball here pretty soon, and that's pretty cool. I mean, the list goes on. And, there's other things we could talk about. I mean, you've been very successful in business, and we could talk about all that. That's how we initially met. But again, it pales in comparison for all the stuff you're doing now. I mean, again, you're just a good person, Brady. Everyone who knows you, just loves you. I mean, the feeling you bring into this room just by what you're sharing is amazing, right? Everyone watching this and listening to this, it's amazing, right? This is why I do this, is to hear these things, and can't thank you enough for spending some time with me today and sharing these things.
Well, I appreciate that. And like, my heart goes back to, like, I was just one of those kids that just needed a shot. Like, I just needed a shot, and my adoptive father gave me a shot, and I'm going to spend the rest of my life paying it forward, because I know what those kids experience, and it's just an honor and a privilege to get to serve the pain that I knew best in this very special way. But your words are very kind, and I appreciate that, and we're all just doing the best with the hand that we've been dealt, and so that's all the best that we can do, right?
Yeah. I have a quote on this back wall here. Do you mind reading that to our listeners?
I would love to, because I was reading that earlier, and it was very impactful. It says, the meaning of life is to find your gift. The purpose of life is to give it away.
Yeah, Pablo Picasso.
Yeah.
And that's really what's going on here. You found your gift in the struggles and the trials that you went through.
Yep.
And once you found it, you're like, I'm going to give it away.
Yep.
And that describes you perfectly. In closing, I want you to speak to the camera, to the one person who is right now listening or watching you, who's struggling, who's in a dark place, and they're not sure what to do. What would you tell that person? You've already shared some cool things, but what would you tell that person right now? Let's look right to that camera there.
Absolutely. I actually can envision that person in my mind, and as if they're right there, I would say, I love you, and we got this. It's not over till it's over, right? Nothing is too difficult to be able to not overcome it. And you're not alone. We're in this together, and we can do this together. I genuinely would say, literally, reach out to me. Find me on, my email is super simple. It's brady@rods.org. Email me. Let's get on a phone call. We are in this together. Let's go get through this together.
Ooh, beautifully said. There you go, guys. So if people do want to reach out to you, you got your email. How can they find out more about the foundation and things like that? What's the best way for them to connect with you?
We make it super simple. So our website is rods.org, rods.org. Our Instagram is Rods Heroes, and then you got my email, brady@rods.org. And I mean this. Anybody who is in need, reach out to me. I want to help you, and I will always do my very best to be a great teammate, because people have done that for me, and I'm just trying to pay it forward.
Wow, beautiful. Amen.
Thanks for having me on.
Oh, you
Todd.
bet. Thanks for being here, Brady. You're a good man, and I'm grateful to know you. I'm a better person for knowing you. I'm better just by sitting here, right? We're better just hearing this, and it makes me want to do more and be better. Hopefully you feel the same way. Again, thanks to my sponsors for giving me a chance to share these amazing stories. This is what it's about. Like you said, it's at the end of the day, it's about the kids, and really this is about helping people like Coop and these kids. So please share this episode with everyone you know and your family. If you have someone who's struggling, they need to hear Brady's words. Send this link to this episode to them. They will be filled up with love and gratitude, and with that desire that you can get through this. It's never over until it's over, right? So thank you for being here once again, Brady. And everyone, I love you. Thanks for believing in me. Until next time, take care.